Hello there and welcome back to Bad Habits. So, last time we were here, we were talking about Bendy and the Ink Machine and the 5 reasons that I really just did not like it. And I decided that last week, after playing Bendy and the Ink Machine, I needed to know what was so good about this game that everybody was hyped about it. So I decided to go on and play the second game, which is Bendy and the Dark Revival, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So Bendy and the Dark Revival had pretty much the same concept as Bendy and the Ink Machine. It's supposed to be a puzzle-like type horror game where you are exploring the world of Bendy, the ink demon from the Ink Machine. Now, to be honest, when I started playing this one, I had the same vibes that I had on the first one, and I may have procrastinated a little bit because I just didn't want to go through that same experience of spending hours on a game and not enjoying the outcome. But I am so happy that I decided to play this game because they did everything that I wanted out of the first game. Now, when I was playing Bendy and the Ink Machine, there was a few things that really did bother me about the game. If you're curious about it, the last video is up. Just go back, won't take you much time, then you'll be all caught up. But when it really came down to it, in this game, they fixed all of the things that I just did not like about the last game. This game felt like the child that I wanted out of the first game. They really brought the world to life, and it really let me enjoy it. Now, would I go so far as to call it a horror game? Not really. It's more of a tactics game and possibly a puzzle game. Are the creatures scary? Yes. Are there intense situations? Yes. But it takes a different level to make a horror game that actually gets your heart pumping and not just filled with jump scares. The game's cartoony aspect kind of threw me off with any type of horror. It was more interesting to see the creatures than to be scared by them, and it really wasn't that scary, more intense. And as for the creatures that were walking around most of the time, it really didn't take much more than a pipe to beat them down. Not to mention they added in the mechanic that you could regain life by sneak attacking them. But the game was absolutely great nonetheless. So before I get too far into this, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I actually enjoyed this game. Last video, I gave you a little spoiler. It was too short for me not to. But this game is something you can put your time towards and not feel a single bit of regret. To give you a little bit of backstory, you start out this game as a girl named Audrey, and you're quickly pulled into the world of Bendy via some creepy dude. I know that's a little bit of a spoiler, but you see it within the first 5 seconds of the game, so it's not too bad. As you reach the depths and you end up in this dark world of death and destruction, you start to realize that you're basically being hunted by everything inside the game. All cause this Wilson guy, who invited you, might I add, wants you in the top of his tower, or something along that line. Like I said, no spoilers. I am going to be cryptic. So you start on your grand adventure, and you start hearing over the radios that Bendy's dead. He can't hunt you anymore. But you quickly find out that that might not be the truth. But you're determined with your one goal in mind of climbing up to the top of this studio so you can get out and go back to your world. And boy, is that goal a lot harder than it seems. Almost immediately, you start running into these shambling ink creatures, which, honestly, you might be one yourself after ending up there. If you look at your body through the menu, you don't look too great. Or maybe you look cooler? I guess it all comes down to your opinion. But the most important part is they're all searching for you. Look how important you are. And this is where the mechanics start to get good. They did something they didn't do in the last game that I was so excited to see in this game. You can run! Yeah, I know that really doesn't seem like much, but in the last game, all you could do was a fast-paced walk, which I thought was, pretty lame, considering you had a monster running behind you. Like, you have a hobbled leg or something? I just didn't understand. Next to that, I quickly got up to the normal Bendy tactics that you know and love. Sneak around, hide inside of a box, or a box, or a box. There's a lot of different types of boxes. And hope and pray that you don't spend the next 5 minutes sitting inside that box as you're watching people pass in front of you. It's possible it happened. Now, sooner rather than later, you end up meeting the person you know and love, Bendy! And honestly, in the cutscene that I ran into him, I thought I was going to die. But the cutscene prevailed, and it let me to get out of it scot-free. Now, once you run into the Ink Demon the first time, it starts giving you this random chance that the whole screen will turn black and it will start slowly fading in, and if you're not going to get inside of a box within the next 5 seconds, your life's over. Because then Bendy's going to pop up out of the ground, eat you for a snack, and then dance on your grave. And no, I'm not kidding. Now, I won't lie, I loved this game. It was actually really fun. But they took something out of it that the last game had that I was a little bit disappointed with. Bendy just pops out of the ground to eat you any time that you don't make it there fast enough. Where in the last game, he was this shambled mess that would walk and find you. He was a physical character who was horrifying to see. And yes, you do run into some of those intense moments later on, but I just didn't have my heart pumping from the screen starting to turn black. It was more of I needed to memorize where all the boxes were so I could dive into them quickly. And some of these places where you got this random occurrence at, there was nowhere to be found for a box. I landed in a hallway and I was halfway down it and it pops up, and it didn't matter how fast I ran because I ran all the way down the hallway and I still wasn't able to find a box in time before I could get into it. Personal problem? I know. It's just a mechanic and it's not something I can really hate on. The game was still good and I still liked how they did it. I just wanted to see more of Bendy. I wanted to feel that fear beating in my heart as he walked in front of the box, and I'm like, oh no. And that's why in the beginning of this video I called it more of a puzzle game and less of a horror game. Were there horror aspects? Sure. But not really enough to cause any heavy fear in me. Besides this little ghost chick who managed to jump in front of my face and make me jump like 90 times. I did not appreciate that. Alright, maybe I did a little. But I could not find what kept on making her show up. I think it was just certain spots, but I wouldn't know because I was just walking along and boom, there she is! And if you're wearing headphones, you may as well say goodbye to your ears. So I'm not gonna give you anything else in the story besides this one thing. As you get so far into the game, you start getting a little bit of superpowers. A mark shows up on your hand and you can start to banish people by touching them on the face. Or, another one you get later on, is you can now teleport from one area to the next. Now, it's a short distance teleport and it doesn't really go far, but it sure does make it easier to get them sneak attack banishes. The other powers, you're gonna have to play the game. Now let's talk consequences. If you do manage to die, it will bring you to a death screen in which you can continue, but it's going to drop you in the last major thing you did. Whether that's pulling a lever or walking into a brand new room, is all going to come down to how fast you died. And that story, oh, it was good. It was good. And it did some job explaining some of the stuff that happened in the last game. Not to mention, it has a lot of callbacks. So, though I really did not enjoy the first game, if you're a lore person, I would suggest playing it first. Now, I'll be real, after playing the first game, I wanted to hate on this one so much. Because in my tiny little mind, my brain's like, no, That first game was horrible. There's no way the second game can be any better. But did they do a great job? Just, I really loved it. I really loved it. I liked it so much I actually wanted to go back and play it a second time to see if there was another ending or not. Did I? No. I got other games to play that I gotta do reviews on. I don't got another 2 weeks to see a second ending. I did see 2 of the endings though. I don't know if there's a third. Kinda hope there's a third, but I don't know if there is. But I am extremely excited that this studio looked over their first game and went, we can make this better. We can do better at this. And then hit a home run with it. Even the puzzles in this game made sense. I mean, thank the spirits that be, that machine that makes cups and gears and random things didn't come back. Instead, they added a new mechanic where you have to find blueprints. Or you gain materials off the monsters in order to make keys for the doors. The game even did this great job showing that the world around you isn't just this dark, evil place. There's people down here trying to make a living. And though 90% of them are nuts and have lost their mind, there's still this select few who just want to exist and be happy, no matter how small the happiness. And I appreciate that. I mean, I just love it when a world comes to life. Like when I'm playing a game, I don't want to feel like I'm playing a game. I want to feel like I am in the center of all of this going on, and it's my job to fix it all. But sometimes games just don't do that. Especially when the story makes no sense whatsoever. But this one got it right. So I'm sorry if I'm super vague about everything. I don't want to give anything away, and everything in this story is a relatively linear storyline. And if I go much past what's happening in the beginning, then I start giving away that everything happens through the middle and the end. And I just don't want to do that. I enjoyed the game enough that I think that you should take some time to enjoy the game. And it's a relatively older game by an indie studio, so it shouldn't cost you too much to play through it. And honestly, I'd have a lot more video to show you guys going on in the background, but unfortunately OBS ate like 5 hours of my recording. Did I do good? You did good, OBS, you did good. So unfortunately you're just gonna have to deal with what I got. Now as my final little bit here, I'm gonna tell you what really made the game for me. Petting Boris. I got to pet Boris. And it is the best. If you play the game through and you don't pet Boris, you are a sinner. And you shall become part of the ink machine. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry for not being able to give you too much on the story, but if you want the story yourself, you should just go buy it and play it. So we will see you next time, right here on Bad Habits. And remember, the Watchers see.